Hey everyone, Kelly Dean Allen here with you again. So then, as you no doubt know, we lost the legendary Ace Frehley of Kiss last week. So I would be remiss to not pop out a tutorial or something in his honor as one of the most influential rock guitarists in history. He certainly influenced me back in the day. One of the very first scale runs that I ever learned and was damn pleased and proud of myself to master was one of Ace's. The scale run that kicks off the solo to Love Gun, if I'm not mistaken. That said, figured I would have a look at one of the first songs that Ace ever wrote for the band and one of the band's most well-known tracks, Cold Gin, from the band's 1974 debut album. So then, in Ace's honor, let's close in here a little bit, learn how to play Cold Gin by Kiss. Alright then, the Ace Frehley penned Cold Gin from Kiss's 1974 debut album. We are in E-flat tuning, so we're tuned down 1/2 step because Kiss was always tuned down a half step, and here's your tuning. Now the opening riff to this one and the riff that we're going to be playing all throughout this track goes a little something like this. So we're starting on the two middle strings here, an A5 chord, an A power chord basically on the D and G string. 7 of the D, 9 of the G along with the open A. Just going to strike those three strings together and choke it off. Right? Then you're going to take that A power chord, back it up to G. So a G5 chord, 5 of the D, 7 of the G. Now we're going to strike along with the open A string again. And you're going to keep your pinky planted on that 7 of the G, but you're going to move your index from 5 to 4 twice. Always striking the A string along with it. Then coming off that 4 the second time, you're going to go back into 5 and then slide it back into A. Kind of like that. When you slide back into A, you're going to strike the chord again. Very staccato, right? Ba, 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 ba. Now, every second time you play this riff, you're going to double hit that A power chord to start it. So the first time it's just once, then twice, then once, then twice. Right? You get the point. And you're going to repeat that 8 times at the beginning of this track, and then the first verse kicks in. The first verse, we're still in this A5 chord, but we're going to add our pinky down here on 10 of the B. And just hit that chord, just the D, G, and B string twice, and choke it off. And then back it up 2 spots to G, do the exact same thing, repeat the riff once. And then back to the A chord, hit it twice, back it up to G, and back to the riff. Right? You're going to do that 4 times during the verse. And that drops into the chorus. The final time you're playing, coming out of this, right? For the verse, you're going to repeat the riff twice. With a double hit. Ba-da. Then the chorus. We're going to be repeating that 4 times. So E power chord, just going to hit that twice. I think he's sliding out of it, kind of quickly sliding out of it, right? Then we're going to hit it again, twice, right? Then you're going to do some chicka-chickas, a little down, up, right? And then drop into a G chord, the same G chord we were using during the verses, 5, 7, and 8, right? And then drop it immediately into a D power chord. Kind of like that, right? But you got to get those chicka-chickas in there, right? Final time, you go into E, hit it twice, little pause, little unison bend there to finish up the chorus. Just a 12 of the B and 14 of the G. Kind of like that. Or here, right, on 7 of the high E and 10 of the B. Right, just slide out of that, hit it maybe once or twice, right? And then we're back into the main riff again for 4 repeats. Right, 4 times, right into another verse, same as the first. Right, same thing we did the first verse. Into another chorus. And this time to finish up the chorus, he does this lick. Right up the E minor pentatonic, starting on the 12 of the high E with a hammer on the 15 back to 12, and then grab the 15 of the B, and then repeat that pattern all the way up the pentatonic until you get to the 14 of the A. Right there, right? Right back into the riff. Four times. The fourth and final time, you're going to go 5-4, 5-4, and then back into 5, but you're not going to slide it into A again. You're going to drop into a big G major chord, right? Or big G cowboy chord and let it ring. And then we're into the bridge. Very clever little bridge, this. So we're coming out of that big G or G cowboy chord, whatever you like, and then we're going to go back into G, hit it twice, just a G power chord basically, down to C twice, right into this. So we're basically repeating the same little lick twice, but finishing on a different note the second time. So we're on the 3-2 of the A with that right there. Double hit of this C note off to 2. Back onto 3, back off to 2. And you're going to repeat that, but the second time you're not going to finish on the 2, you're going to finish on the 1 of the low E. Got to reach back there and grab it, right? And then back to G, double hit, C, right? Second time, we're just going to do that. We're going to go 3-2 about 7 times. And then back onto that C note at the 3rd fret, and then off to 1 again. And then repeat the whole thing again. Second time we play through this riff, doing that 3-2, 3-2, 3-2, 3-2. You're finally going to finish on the G note there at the 3rd fret of the low E, because we're going to change keys, move the whole thing into A to D. Right? And then we're going to jump it into an A power chord down to a D power chord with double hits. And play the exact same thing we played earlier that we were playing on 3 and 2. Now we're going to play it on 5 and 4. And go off to the G note at the 3rd fret, right? A, D, A, D, and then just 5-4, 5-4, 5-4, 5-4, 5-4, 5, 3 of the low E. Final time, you're going to finally move it into E with a double hit, right? And then we drop into this. into the riff again. So after a double hit of this E power chord, right, we're going to drop into this. So we're holding this E5 chord with our index and middle finger. Index on the 7 of the A, middle finger down here on 9 of the D, and we're going to hammer on to 12 of the A, and then catch that 9 of the D on the upstroke. Right, and you're going to repeat that, but you're going to hammer on to 11 the second time. Right, and then finish on the 7 of the A. Kind of like that. Right, and repeat that like 3 times. And then finally, leading back into the main riff again, E, D, and then off to a D augmented. We're just going to take our index while we're still holding the 7 of the D and just back our index off to 4. Right back to the main riff. Into the final chorus. Final time we play this lick. I think that's what he's doing. It's a little bit buried in the mix, but I have my index here on 12 of the high E, hammering on 13 to 14 of the G, and then pedaling off of that 12 of the high E. And then you're just going to take that little hammer on from 13 to 14, move it up to 14, 15, and then move it up to 15, 16. And then back it up to 14, 15. Right? I'm pretty sure that's the lick he's playing there. Right back to the riff. And then finally into A, end of track. And there you go. That is how you play Cold Gin, Ace Frehley, and Kiss. Certainly hope you enjoyed that, found it helpful. If you did, please hit that like button right down there. Maybe drop me a subscribe if you haven't done that already, as that would be very kind. Hope you're well out there in your little guitar corner of the world, wherever that may find you, and we will see you next time. Cheers.